I was at a beautiful wedding reception recently, just standing on an outdoor balcony, watching this absolutely breathtaking sunset. The music's playing, people are laughing, and as this perfect cinematic moment arrives, almost in perfect unison, a sea of glowing rectangles goes up into the air all around me. I mean, everybody had their phones out, snapping photos, recording videos. Everyone, that is, except for this one person I noticed standing near the edge of the railing. They were just standing there, hands completely tucked in their pockets, simply watching the scene unfold, totally absorbed in the colors of the sky. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to look at the absolutely fascinating psychology behind the uncaptured moment. You know, seeing that person really got me reflecting on my own habits. And it made me think of a close friend of mine who literally never takes selfies. They never document our meals, and they rarely take photos of their experiences. So why do they leave their camera in their pocket? Well, it's easy to assume they just aren't tech savvy, or I don't know, maybe they just forgot to capture it. But psychology reveals that this choice actually points to some surprisingly deep personality patterns. It completely changes how we understand the way someone experiences their internal life. Let's unpack exactly what's going on in the minds of the undocumented. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Living Inside the Experience. It all starts with a fundamental psychological preference. So, what actually happens when we reach for our phones? Psychology tells us that for certain people, the very act of taking a photo creates an immediate emotional distance from the experience itself. The exact moment that camera appears, a massive chunk of our attention is forcibly shifted away from the reality happening right in front of us. It gets redirected entirely toward the act of documentation. In that split second, you're no longer just in the moment, you've kind of become the director of it. And when you're busy directing the lighting, the angle, and the framing, well, you are fundamentally robbed of being a true participant. There is a really powerful idea at play here from our sources. They value immersion more than preservation. Let that sink in for just a second. For these folks, fully living inside the moment, really feeling it, breathing it, experiencing it without any digital filters or glass screens between them and reality, is vastly more important than saving a digital copy of it for later. They simply don't want to capture the moment. They want to be captured by it. Moving right along to section 2, feeling instead of seeing. I remember going for a quiet morning walk just last week. The air was incredibly crisp, the leaves were crunching loudly under my boots, and the early sunlight was breaking through the trees in this stunning, almost magical way. Now, for many of us, the immediate instinct is to whip out a phone and snap a picture of that light, right? But not everyone stores memories the same way. While some of us rely heavily on visual memory, needing images and photographic proof to trigger the recollection of an event, others lean heavily on emotional memory. Their brains just don't strongly associate remembering an event with needing visual proof of it. Instead, they remember their walks or their trips through the physical feelings, the nuances of the deep conversations they had, or the specific sounds of a place. For them, the emotional impact of the experience literally is the memory. And this brilliantly illustrates a concept called internal validation. In a world where so many of our photos are fundamentally connected to sharing, posting to get likes, gathering reactions, building up this curated social identity, people who rarely take photos often operate entirely on a system of internal validation. They derive their emotional reward privately. Because they're significantly less driven by social validation and external visibility, they genuinely feel zero need to constantly document their lives for a public audience. For them, knowing they lived a beautiful moment is completely enough. The private experience doesn't need to be validated by an audience to be real. Which brings us to section 3, escaping the performance. Let me paint another picture for you. I was at a really vibrant dinner party a few nights ago. The conversation was flowing beautifully, wine glasses were clinking, and we were having a genuinely wonderful, organic time together. And then somebody yells, "Wait, let's take a picture." Boom. Suddenly, reality is interrupted. First, we literally have to pause reality, stop that flowing conversation. Second, reposition ourselves. Everyone leans in, squishing together to get in the frame. Third, change expressions. We drop the genuine mid-sentence laugh and replace it with a static, frozen smile. It all happens so fast, but capturing a photo often artificially pauses a completely natural, flowing moment and instantly turns it into a stage performance. Let's slow down and really think about what that means for certain personality types. For people who don't instinctively take photos, staged moments like that dinner party pause feel incredibly emotionally uncomfortable. Because these individuals value authenticity so highly, that sudden shift from a real, candid experience to an artificial performance feels incredibly jarring. It completely breaks the spell of human connection.
Actually, scratch that. They actively avoid turning their genuine, lived reality into a staged production. They'd much rather let a beautiful, messy, uncaptured moment exist exactly as it is rather than manufacture a perfect but fake version of it. And finally, section 4, the power of presence. Let's see how this all builds into a much broader philosophy of life. It ultimately comes down to a battle between future preparation and current participation. People who constantly record are often engaging in future preparation. Their mind is actively working on preserving the current moment for a later date, anticipating how they're going to look back on this day years from now. But highly present-focused individuals, they operate on current participation. Their attention stays entirely anchored in what is happening right now, in this exact breath. They prioritize participating in the present way over mentally preparing future memories. Okay, let's bring the whole shebang together. We've unpacked 5 really powerful psychological patterns from our source material today. People who leave their cameras in their pockets are driven by 1. A desire for true immersion over digital preservation. 2. A reliance on internal, private validation rather than external social praise. 3. An intricate reliance on emotional rather than visual memory storage. 4. A deep craving for authenticity that actively rejects staged performances. And 5. A profound sense of present-mindedness. It's absolutely fascinating how such a small behavioral choice, just simply choosing to keep your phone away, reveals a completely different way of seeing, feeling, and interacting with reality. I want to leave you with a final thought today, just a bit of personal reflection. The next time you find yourself in a beautiful, fleeting moment, maybe try a small experiment. What might you actually see, feel, and truly experience if you just stop trying to capture it? Try leaving your camera in your pocket just once today, and see what happens when you fully step inside the moment. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.